Alright guys, and as far as going for Red Goblin, I'm going to go over his pros and cons. If you guys haven't subscribed to this channel already,
then what is you doing, baby? Subscribe!
So the pros that he has are his armor break. Now for each Fury buff on Red Goblin, his Carnage bombs apply 1 armor break. If Red Goblin stacks only Fury buffs, he can easily strip away any armor buffs on his opponents. He also has True Sense, so after launching his Special 3 or dropping his opponent through a health threshold, Red Goblin gains a very long duration True Sense, preventing the activation of miss or auto block abilities, which is very good against MCOC and Medusa. The Spider-Verse champions, pretty much all their evading is negated. So he's just like Venom, where he can just go ahead and smack them away and they will not be able to evade any of his attacks. Now as far as his weaknesses or his cons, anybody who can nullify his buffs, because Red Goblin does benefit highly from his buffs, he needs them to do high damage. So if you're going against a champion who has nullify and you don't get any buffs, then it's going to be a very long fight. With Purify, so once Red Goblin gets his buffs, he can stack up to a lot of debuffs on his opponent. But if they're able to purify these effects or reduce their duration, he will lose out on a lot of damage and utility. So people like Agent Venom, who can purify the debuffs, Aegon, who can purify debuffs. Mostly a lot of the skill champions who can purify those debuffs, he will have a hard time going against because he can't stack the debuffs against them. And then also you have champions who regenerate. It gives Red Goblin a hard time as well because if the regeneration goes past the frenzy threshold, then you lose the frenzy buff, which is also another high damage for Red Goblin. So just keep that in mind if you're going against someone like Wolverine. You will have to stack a lot of debuffs. If you have Despair Mastery, at least 1 point in it, then those debuffs will negate the regeneration, and this way you'll be able to keep your frenzy. But just keep that in mind, if you don't have Despair Mastery, then they will regenerate a lot on you and you'll have a hard time keeping your frenzy buff active. As far as my thoughts on Red Goblin, from what I've seen, he does have to get ramped up because he needs those frenzy buffs, or I should say the bloodlust passives that he gets every single fight or every single time he wins a fight. Now you can add synergies to him, like the one that you can have with Venom, where if you lose a fight you only lose 1 bloodlust. Actually you don't lose any bloodlust. If you don't have Venom on the team, if you lose a fight you lose a bloodlust, and you need those bloodlusts to get the frenzy threshold past 65% when you have 5 stacks of it. You can also add in Red Goblin, or not Red Goblin, Green Goblin and Carnage. Either one of them, if you add to the team, you gain 1 bloodlust the first time Red Goblin wins a fight in the quest. So you can go ahead and add them on the team. When you win your first fight, you'll wind up getting 2 bloodlusts instead of just getting 1. Now you can also add in Symbiote Spider-Man. So while Red Goblin's frenzy is active, it increases his buff duration by 30%, which is very helpful when you have the Fury buffs active. It can also help out with the frenzy. If you're trying to, after you do your special 3, your frenzy is on a timer, so you can increase the duration for that as well. Now usually, as I see for his rotation, people usually run all the way up to his special 3 to activate that frenzy. Once the frenzy is activated, then they'll go ahead and do the special 2. So they'll work their way up to special 2. Once you're in frenzy, just keep on spamming the special 2. And also you can do his heavy attack, which will inflict a lot of armor breaks. So that's the rotation I usually see from people online, is that they'll run all the way up to his special 3. And with his special 3, he'll have the frenzy active. With the frenzy, it is active for 30 seconds once you do the special 3. So if you do have the symbiote Spider-Man on the team, then that will help keep the duration a little bit longer. And again, once you get past that threshold, you'll always keep your frenzy and just keep on spamming the special 2. Keep on throwing the heavies to get the high armor breaks. But again, he does take a lot of ramp up to get to that 5 bloodlusts. But once you have the 5 bloodlusts, he will do a lot of damage from his frenzy attacks as well as his special 2 once he's in frenzy. Keep on applying the armor breaks and he will do a ton of damage as well as incinerate damage. As far as recommended masteries to have when you have Red Goblin, Despair. You should have Despair anyway. Despair helps out all your champions. But since he stacks a lot of debuffs, if you just have 1 point Despair, it will easily block the healing. So that way it won't mess up your frenzy once you're in that range. Also, it's good to have Assassin. And once you're in Assassin, it's easy to knock him out because just the high damage that Red Goblin does once he's in that frenzy range anyway when they're low on health. And then also for Resonate, since it will act as a unique debuff against the opponent. So pretty much weakness debuffs applied by the mastery count totals towards unique debuffs, which will increase the damage of Red Goblin's special 1. The special 1 again will just shoot off with an incinerate debuff on them. If you are going to go ahead and grind for Red Goblin, just keep in mind he does need to be ramped up. His synergies help. And his sig level also, if you can have it at a high sig level, it will also help because Red Goblin's signature ability, special attacks generate 1 symbiote buff with 35% reduced potency. So having that extra symbiote buff again will help Red Goblin do increased damage. So just keep that in mind if you guys are trying to grind for Red Goblin. Now as far as amount I see him going for, I see Red Goblin going for about, I'd say 2.1 to 2.3 million for 4-star basic, just due to the fact that he does have to get ramped up in his kit. And also as far as his damage, he doesn't hit hard until he has those 5 bloodlusts and you're able to have frenzy activated. Those are pretty much the negatives that I see for Red Goblin. So if you guys are trying to grind for him, I would say 2.1 to 2.3 million. Again, always add your 10% to that number just as your safety net. Now if you guys want to see a video on how to use Red Goblin and a more detail of what his abilities are, I will put a link in the description below that will take you over to Jason Voorhees. He has a good video on giving you the special 1, special 2, special 3, and good highlights of his buffs and what they're able to do. Alright summoners, and now we're up to the featured champion, which is Masacre. Now it is pronounced Masacre, not Massacre. Massacre spelled with 2 S's, not 1. In this case, this champion's name only has 1 S in it, so it's pronounced Masacre. Now Masacre does have a new buff where he's able to keep his bat ignited easier as opposed to before. And also his special 2 hits extremely strong if you hit into their block. It was strong before when you used to hit into the block, but now they increase the damage. So that's your main focus now, is just to ignite the bat, and then when the opponent is blocking, throw your special 2 and just see that a massive damage hit them when you use it. He does have a few strong matchups, mainly against Medusa. Now with Medusa, since she does have that auto block, since Masacre has the ability to reduce the defensive ability accuracy by 100% into a block, that means that even though she may trigger her auto block on you, she won't parry you. So that right there is definitely a benefit if you use him against Medusa. As well against MCOC, since MCOC, when you go into his block, Masacre does have a class advantage on MCOC. So with the ability to reduce defense ability accuracy with his disorient, he'll be less likely to trigger his auto block. So when he does disorient, incinerate, and the huge attack bonus when his special 2 hits into the block will also pretty much make that fight a done deal. Iron Man Infinity War triggers his signature ability at a consistent health threshold. So if Masacre is clever enough to push him across the trigger by striking his block, combined with his disorient, he can prevent it from triggering. That way it can make that fight a lot easier. Now as far as Masacre's weak matchups, pretty much anyone who is Incinerate immune, you'll have a hard time against. And also you have Mephisto. Mephisto actually gains power if he gets under Incinerate, so that's a poor matchup. Agent Venom, who can purify debuffs, would be a poor matchup, as well as Aegon. And you also have Bishop, who pretty much gains energy since Masacre uses the Incinerate. So Bishop will gain energy. He'll gain power from the energy damage, so you're just going to supercharge Bishop and have him attack you. Same thing with Captain Marvel movie as well. She will gain the binary charges while she's under an Incinerate debuff. So those champions who actually gain power or gain energy from the Incinerate are bad matches as well. So when you use Masacre, you want someone who is not Incinerate immune and also who doesn't gain power or enhance their abilities from that debuff. He is an older champ. People mainly use him as a synergy for Domino, since he made her debuffs last a second longer, which helped her for her bleed. So yeah, I'm going to keep his a little bit shorter. I'm going to go into his prediction that I see him going for as far as a 5-star. So I'll go into Masacre's cutoff for 5-star feature. I see him going for 30 million. He may go a little less than 30 million. Figure about 25 million for a featured 5-star. But always add in your 10% just as a safety cushion. And for the 4-star feature Masacre, I'm seeing going for about 6 million. Again, not too high because he is an older champ. I gave it just a little bit more than expected just because he had that recent buff put onto him. Now, also as far as like, if you want to see how to use Masacre after his buff, I will put a link in the description. That will be under Peppy Pose, Peppy Peppo. I have his video in the description, and he shows you pretty much how to use Masacre after his buff. If you found this video very informative, give it a like, comment, and share with your friends. And I'll see you guys in the next arena prediction video.